How's it going, guys? We're back with a little instructional video. This time we're going to be talking about chipping. So I posted a little blurb on TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts about how we use the bounce and figuring out the low point of our swing to really dictate what a good chip shot looks like. So we're going to dive a little more in depth about some of the terms I used in that video right here. So one of the main things I talked about was the bounce of the golf club. So every wedge you have has a bounce, and most of them are listed right alongside the loft of the club. Right here I have a 60 degree with 10 degrees of bounce. So what this is when the club is sitting on the ground, you have a little bit of built-in room between the ground and that leading edge of the golf club, which is where you first start getting some dig. So with the bounce, we're trying to take that leading edge out of the equation. So some golfers will set up square and the bounce will do its thing. Others, we need a little bit of help, or we want a little bit more margin of error. So we'll open that club up a little bit, and that will allow us to really utilize more of the bounce. The next thing we need to talk about is how we generate spin. So spin is generated with the friction between the golf ball and the grooves of the golf club. So on a traditional golf shot, the ball in slow motion will roll up the grooves, and that'll give it that backspin that you usually get on your golf shots. So to utilize more spin, we need more interaction with the grooves. Certain things can generate less spin, such as if the grooves are dirty and they aren't as deep, or if the club is wet, the ball is wet. Different things like that will minimize the amount of friction you'll get between the golf club and the golf ball. So deep, clean grooves are the best way to utilize as much spin as possible. But other than that, what you really want to do is utilize a shot where the grooves come into play the most. So a lot of golfers will set up for a chip shot and they'll take the club and they'll de-loft it. And they'll push that handle really far forward. They'll be like, I really want to make good contact. But not only are you exposing the ground to the leading edge, which will cause more of that digging and more of those chunks, but also you're limiting the amount of friction you get with the grooves. And this will limit the amount of spin you get. So the next thing we talked about was low point. So no matter how big of a swing you take, whether it be a little chip shot or a full swing, that club is always moving on an arc. And the low point of your arc is where the club is going to contact the ground. So as I talked about previously, if your feet are spread out and your weight is 50-50 on both feet, then your low point of your swing is going to be directly in the middle of your 2 feet. However, if you move your weight toward the back foot, that low point is going to be near the back. And if you move the weight toward the front, that low point is going to be toward the front. So we can use these things to help us curate the best shot in our bag for chipping. So for me, I have a 60 right now. You can do this with any club, but typically I want to put the club in the front of my stance to really allow the loft to do its job. I'm going to set up, I'm going to open my face, and I'm going to put a little more weight in my front foot so that low point will be near the ball and near the front of my stance. So then I'm going to just take the club back and through just like a normal shot, and we'll see if we can match up that low point using the bounce to really increase our margin of error and see if we can play a shot that's high and has a little bit of spin. And so with a shot like that, we've accomplished what we want to do. We want to take something with a lot of loft, and we really want to have a lot of contact with the grooves to get a lot of spin. Now we're going to talk about a shot where you want a little less spin. So although high spin is very beneficial in a lot of situations and can be used pretty effectively if you can control your distances, there's some shots where you can take that high spin, high shot out of the equation entirely. And the benefits to this are you increase your margin of error even more. So if I hit a high shot, there's a good chance that I'm using the bounce and I might catch my low point a little too far back, and the bounce will throw that leading edge back up into the golf ball, and that will lead to those shots that are very thin and that fly across the green and that we hate to see. So if I want to hit a shot where I take that out of the equation entirely, I'm going to hit a low bump and run. So you can use pretty much any club in the bag for this, depending on how much spin you want. The more loft you take off the club, the less spin you're going to have. So some people like to use an 8-iron, those just run and run and run. Some people like to use a pitching wedge. Those have a little bit more bite to it. I have a 52 because I want a little bit of bite because this is a downhill shot. But if I'm hitting on a completely flat lie, an 8-iron is a very good club to use. A 7 or an 8-iron you can basically putt with, and you can kind of sail it over a lot of the rough and a lot of the thicker stuff, and then it'll just roll out when it reaches the green. Good examples of using the shot are something here where you have a lot of green to work with, or something where you have something you need to get over, like maybe you want to get over the fringe, and then you have a pin in the back so you can run it out a lot further. This will, if you master this shot, it'll take a lot of the guesswork out of your short game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to put the ball closer to the back of my stance. And I'm still going to open up the club face a tiny bit to really use that bounce. And I'm just going to have that club glide through the golf ball. And we're going to keep our weight kind of in the middle, maybe a tiny bit back, but we don't want to get super far back. So we're just going to just hit this shot, just a nice little low running shot, and see if we can get it close to the hole. So there we have it. You saw the high shot with a lot of spin, you saw a low shot with less spin. All you gotta remember is spin is controlled by the grooves. The more loft we present to the ball, the more spin we're gonna get. The cleaner and deeper your grooves are, the more friction you're gonna get and the more spin. The cleaner your golf ball, the cleaner your club, the more you're gonna be able to get that friction as well. If you want less spin, if you want a runny shot, take less loft and just work on just gliding that club through the ball. We don't need to get fancy. We don't need to try to pinch the ball against the turf or do anything too crazy. We can just let the club do all the work. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe, and please, if you have any questions, comment below. I'd love to hear your thought process and how you would approach a shot similar to this. As always, take these shots out to the course, practice them, and let's play for par.